And welcome back to Say It Is with Brandon and Tyler. We got a fun little episode where Tyler and our guests are going to be educating me on White Sox baseball because they recently just showed up on my radar for fun teams within, this season. Before that, they were just not on the radar at all. So our guest, we have White Sox fan and retired Judge Jim Troupis, who has been dealing with quite a bit of bullshit lawfare. So we're doing something a little bit more fun than talking or thinking about that stuff. So welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about something that's truly enjoyable this year.
Right. So White Sox are like, they were a franchise that started like the early 1900s or something like that.
1800s. Yeah. They're one of the oldest original franchises. So, they've been around forever. As long as there's been Major League Baseball, there's been the Chicago White Sox. The iterations of the White Sox.
Yeah. And Tyler, you want to help with educating me?
Well, they've only won 3 World Series. I forget the other 2, but everybody remembers the 2005 one. We've had our fair share of bullshit throughout the years. But like my dad said, my dad is also a big White Sox fan. That's where I got my team from. My mom's a Cubs fan, so I didn't take that side.
Oh my goodness, and they're still married. That's amazing.
No. They've been divorced for 10 years.
Okay, see, I could have predicted that, but that's okay.
But my dad always said that the White Sox will win the World Series again, and I'm thinking they're going to do it again, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Because what I was telling Brandon was that before the 2005 World Series, they were a very young team, and 2 to 3 years later, they ended up winning the World Series. So I'm thinking that's what's also happening with this team, with Vargas and Murakami and Montgomery, and now Riku Nishida that they just brought up. So.
Well, but let's go back a little bit of history, because you can tell by my age that I've been here for a long time.
Yes, you have more history than I do. I was born in 1996. So.
Oh yeah, well, so one of the things that's been so fascinating about the White Sox is that they have had, effectively been unable to have a string of World Series teams. Say like the Oakland Athletics, right? They had those teams with Jackson and all these guys, just wonderful teams. And then, Boston's had their run, and New York, of course, always is there. But the Sox, not unlike the Cubs, really haven't had, what we would call a successful long-term run. And it's strange because it's, we're in a giant city, been a giant city forever.
Oh yeah, third largest city in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. And you think about the fact that the biggest contract they've ever had is with Benintendi. Think about that for a second.
Yes.
Effectively a B player is the highest contract they have. No, he's good. He's paid the proper price, and he's been a good participant. But he's not. You're not going to build a team around him.
No.
But to go back in time, so I was around in the 60s and 70s. And
I'm sure you remember Ozzie Guillen playing, and Ventura and Russo.
Well, and those guys were a little bit later. So when I was in, it's an interesting little side. I'll just tell the story. So there was only one thing that my parents would allow me to miss school for. I went to Catholic schools, right? I've got my Pope Leo socks on. You can see that, and but there was one day a year when I was allowed, and that was when I would leave and go to the opening day of the Chicago White Sox in Comiskey Park with my father. And I came from a large family. We're Catholic. So, there were a lot of us, and we would go to opening day, and it was wonderful at Comiskey, and it was always memorable. So and during those years, those are years like Juan Pizarro and Pete Ward and a number of those. Lopez was the manager.
Oh, yeah.
And the owner was Bill Veeck. So Veeck came and when he bought the team, And there's just a great book. I mean, okay, every Sox fan should read. It's like mandatory reading. You probably haven't read it, Tyler. At Vec as in Rec.
No, I have never heard of that book.
Oh, type it in, get it, order it. Vec as in Rec is a scream, and it's all true. So Bill Vec, he had one leg, and he had a wooden leg, and he had an ashtray put in the wooden leg so he could put his ashes from his cigarettes in his leg as he was watching his team. Among other things, he's the one, of course, who brought us Eddie Gaedel. Remember the midget? He brought him. He's the first owner to bring fireworks. He brought fireworks to the stadium. I mean, he believed that baseball should always be fun, and he just people loved him, and I got to actually meet him on multiple occasions because when I was in law school, so now we're talking mid-70s, late 70s, my wife is also a baseball fan. Loves baseball. There's a whole bunch of stories about her I won't get into about her family in baseball, but I'll tell you that it involves the Negro League. So I'll let you know in the future. You can ask me about that. But our entertainment during law school was to take the L. I went to Northwestern, and we would take the L and we would go down to Comiskey Park, and we'd sit in the outfield with Bill Vec, because that's where he sat.
That's cool.
And there were 12 people in the park on occasion. I mean, it was just, it wasn't very people. And you actually got to meet Bill Vec. You want to meet Bill Vec? Go here, go say hello. He's right here. The owner of the team. And as I said, it was a cheap date. And that was much of our entertainment, a lot of times was to go to the ballpark in an evening. And we were there, get this one, guys, on Disco Demolition Night. If you remember the famous Disco Demolition, they had a shock jock in Chicago, and they were going to throw away all the disco records. So they've got this big bonfire, and this is classic Bill Vec. I mean, it's just classic, right? And it turned into a giant kerfuffle and riot and what have you. They probably have a January 6th committee over it now, but it was a hoot. It was a hoot, and it's very famous. Disco Demolition Night. You can look it up. It was quite good. And there's other stories about this, but anyway, now let's take us into the 80s, which is what you just referred to, the time when you had Ozzie and others on the team. This was in the 60s and the 80s, the Sox had very good teams, but they couldn't win. They couldn't win it all. Remember, for example, in the 60s, there's no division baseball. So look it up. The 1960s, the Sox were second behind the Yankees, 3 out of 10 years. Second, they couldn't beat the Yankees, so they never got to the World Series.
Right,
I mean,
and that's, if you think about it, how do you think the Yankees won all those World Series,
Right.
The Sox were always just short of winning those. Yeah. And then the Yankees come in and go, all right, let's just take this from them.
Exactly. It's time. Hey, 1994, the great strike year.
Oh,
next year, maybe. The Sox are in first place. Frank Thomas is the leading hitter in the league. I mean, he's already.
And this was prime Frank Thomas, too.
Oh, absolute prime. You couldn't get this guy out. I mean,
no.
It was incredible to see him. He's a giant of a man, and his bat control, never anything like it. They don't even. So now everybody's into the home run. You look at Murakami's numbers, right? Everybody knows. I'm just listening.
20 home runs before the month of June.
Yeah, I mean he's incredible, but his average is 244. But that's because the game has changed.
Correct.
They aren't asking him to hit balls. What we learned from James and the other statisticians is a walk is as good as a hit. And so an on-base percentage of 400 plus is really incredible and incredible for your team. And an OPS of 800 or 900 is, he's giving you everything he's got. And that's where Murakami is right now. But in the Thomas era, it was be a hitter and hit home runs. And he did both. And and he walked all the time too. I mean, it was, he talk about the total package. And in 1994, they're headed to the World Series. Everybody's predicting it, and then they go on strike, and that's that. I mean, that's it. So that was a year terribly disappointing. In 1989, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think the White Sox could have won the World Series in 1994 if they didn't lock out?
Yes,
I think so too.
They just had all the pieces were there.
Oh yeah.
And they had primed for it. They'd gotten better and better. So do you remember they're coming off in 1994, another great season, which I think is 88 or 89, where they make the playoffs, but lose in the first round to Baltimore.
You said what, in 1989?
Well, 88 or 89. I can't remember that time. Maybe you're completely wrong, but it wasn't much before 94 that they made the playoffs and then got knocked out by Baltimore, because I was at the game. I took my father. I think it was then. I took my father, and it was because he'd never gone to a playoff game. Right?
So 89 was
Is that
that's the Athletics in San Francisco, and the Cubs were in it in the NLCS.
Okay, but in the America, they played Baltimore.
American League was Toronto and the A's in the ALCS in 89.
No, they didn't get to the championship. They got to the
division. I don't know why that's not showing me the. Hold on, let me
see if you can find that. Yeah. It's all I remember was I took my dad. Again, maybe the early 90s, maybe the 80s, but it preceded 94, and
no, so 89 there was no division. It was still East and West.
Okay, so it's later than that.
Yeah.
But in the 90s. See, this is what happens when you get as old as I am. You forget the year. Look for that Baltimore Sox game.
90s.
Or maybe late 90s then.
Baltimore.
It's terrible. I don't remember it. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
That was 83.
03, so it's that late. Okay, see, that's how
83.
1983, yeah.
Baltimore Buzzsaw.
Okay, it was 83, so it was well before that. But that was the high one of the high points, because I was able to take my father. I bought a ticket. I bought tickets when I didn't have any money back then, and I spent a lot of money to buy them so that my dad could see a playoff game. Your comment about never getting a chance to do that. He's a White Sox fan his whole life, and he'd never been to a playoff game. So I went to that playoff game. They lost. I remember they lost.
During the 83 division series, the White Sox were 99 and 63 that year.
Right. They were supposed to make it. They were supposed to go on. I went assuming we'd get that, and then in fact, I think I had applied for tickets, for the World Series. That's how they bought them.
Oh, you had to apply back then?
Oh yeah. To get to 6, so you get on the list,
Oh, wow,
and I had White Sox season tickets.
Yeah, that. It sounds like when you said that, it sounds like that sounds like season tickets, not like an actual ticket to go to the World Series. Because now you could just buy a ticket.
Yeah, it was. But my point simply was that there was such excitement over that White Sox team, and that was and I believe then was Tony La Russa still the manager? He had become the manager when I was in law school.
Oh,
and he was a lawyer.
I got it here. Let me see. 1983 White Sox.
Because Reinsdorf ends up close friends, and all
we don't
that.
Talk about him. Yeah, it was still La Russa.
Yeah, it was still La Russa. He was a great manager at the time. Remember, he goes to the Athletics, and they win everything, right? I mean,
and he also goes to the Cardinals, and they win everything.
Exactly. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, and
then he comes back to us, and we win. We have a good season, lose in the wild card,
right?
And then he never does anything ever again.
Yeah, kind of like
he was old though.
Kind of like Mike Ditka. Should have won multiple Super Bowls and didn't. So but
here's the man you're talking about. Wait, there he is.
That guy.
Yeah.
Gonna put Reinsdorf up there. Well, like can I say? You got to put Vec. See if you can find Vec. Great. I've always wondered. So that again, it goes to the Chicago tie that I've always had. I mentioned going to the White Sox games. I mentioned knowing about Vec. Reinsdorf went to Northwestern Law School, so he too, shares that. And when he came, you still thought it'd be good. And the world has changed. He can't afford to own the White Sox. That's all it is. He can't afford this era of baseball. It's not, I can hate the guy, I can love the guy. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have the cash. You got to have, as the Cubs have, with the Ricketts family or LA or New York. I mean, they just have so many dollars to do it. I mean, you might do it like Milwaukee continues to, be a total surprise without a $200 million player.
And here's the thing, too, about Milwaukee, if we can go off on a side tangent.
Sure.
Milwaukee in the last few years always gotten into the playoffs. It just like the White Sox can never get there because why? Because of the Dodgers.
Right, because of the Dodgers. And look at the payroll difference. Oh, my goodness. The Dodgers must have at least twice or three times the payroll.
Oh, no, it's like $2 billion when you include the deferred payments.
Is that? Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Ohtani has 90% of his salary deferred.
I sent him an image yesterday, and apparently if this proposed salary cap goes, the Dodgers will be $174 million over budget. So
Yes.
they'll have to get, because the Dodgers payroll right now is $420 million.
Yeah.
They'll have to get rid of players.
Well, that's why it's never going to pass.
Right.
And they would also,
You're not gonna pass a rule. I don't care who you are in baseball that keeps you from paying Ohtani what he's worth. I mean,
Right.
you just can't. I mean, they're making money, and the union. I read the union proposals. Did you see? I saw those today. They were. Did you see that piece? I saw the piece where they were summarizing where the union is on everything. I can't remember where I read that, but there's a realism that comes in this. I do not understand why we're going to lose a season. They're going to solve it.
yeah, like there's
Why
a
not
path
solve
to
it before
saving
the
the season. Yes, there might be a delayed start, is the hope.
Well,
Yeah.
everybody was thinking that there might not be a season because they need to solve the issue of the Dodgers basically buying the World Series. And that was the issue. That a lot of fans are angry with that because it doesn't give other teams a chance to win the title.
Well, I mean, again,
The Dodgers have great players, but
and
they're
they draw
buying.
and they draw huge crowds everywhere. I mean, you could make the same
Right.
argument about the Yankees forever. I
Right.
mean, the Yankees just bought players, kept players, and what have you. But let's take it back to the White Sox and the Cubs.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when you're in a market like Chicago, the idea that you don't have truly top flight players, top to bottom, given how much money they can make outside of the game, it really is a surprise. It's a surprise. I mean, LA, they could cap like they do in the NBA and still get all these players because you can make a ton outside of basketball or baseball, and that's true in Chicago, but not as true as it is in LA with a lot more money out there. But the fact is, the Chicago White Sox are going to have to pay. They're never keeping Murakami if he keeps going, and there's no reason to think he won't because he was this good in Japan, and they all thought he wouldn't be this good when he came to the majors because he wouldn't hit the fastball or something like that. And they all talked themselves into it, pretty hilarious, so that the White Sox end up getting him. And their biggest priority appears to be they're going to have to come up with a contract of $100 to $200 million for Murakami to stay. He's not a young player. I mean, he's
26.
26, is he?
Yeah, he's 26, and I saw a clip from was one of the Chicago radio stations where they interviewed someone like close to the front office, and they said that Jerry is on board with extending Murakami, but he knows it'll take like 112 million minimum. They're looking at possibly proposing that as like a 4 or 5 year deal. But if the pace he's on keeps going, it's going to be closer to like 150 to 200 mil.
Well, the problem for the Sox with I mean, Murakami is a joy. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. You don't have Murakami. This is a very different team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he lifts like Michael Jordan in baseball. I mean, just because that's a good example of Michael Jordan in basketball,
Right.
is that when you get a single player that's that charismatic, that good, that respected, who shows up every day and works harder than anybody else on the team, everybody's game is elevated. That's the reality of he's not the star. See, the star thing has become so awful because we have lots of stars who are just jerks, right? They're just jerks, having to be good at basketball or football or whatever it is. But Murakami appears to be, as his reputation was, genuinely a nice guy, genuinely dedicated, like so many of these Japanese players are, to the baseball as a high art, right? And that's what makes the difference. I mean, so you know what you're getting personality-wise, but look, we're 2 months in. I wouldn't commit $200 million to him at this point, but wait till if on this pace, obviously he's going to hit 60 home runs. I mean, talk about, you're going to pack that ballpark no matter where they are in September, if this guy's got a chance of getting 60 plus home runs.
Yeah, that would break Frank Thomas's home run record.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to see him. Right. Every day I check the box. I don't know. Do either of you guys do that? I check the box at night. I'll go to, I'll go to game day. Then I'll go to the box and I'll see what did Murakami do? Right. That's the only one I'm looking at, because I'm taken by just how commanding this guy is. It's his bat speed. You watch this, when you see him hit, it's just perfect. Every swing is perfect. Like Frank Thomas. Frank Thomas was he was a player. You just want to go back and watch his swing. That's what was incredible. He does the same thing over and over and over and over. And he could get that outside pitch. Sometimes you just get irritated because they try to walk him. He just reach out and, club it into the, right field stands, or, get a hit. He could get so many hits because he could always make contact. So and I think that's what you might have with Murakami. It's early, so we'll see. It's
early. Well, it's like if it was for Murakami, that would not be exceeding expectations. I know that before the season started at the iHeart Studios, when you were going to go do a segment with Vicky, or maybe it was right after, I was like, their ceiling is like 77 wins, but now they're on the pace where they might be closer to 500. And you only need like 83, 84 wins to win the division this year, since the AL this year is either injured or just bad.
You think that they should, yeah. Well, at least make the wild card if they're just 3 or 4 games above 500. It should do it for them. I don't know. That's a good question, and I think that I've been listening to some of the Chicago commentators, and the team has to ask the question. It's going to be a very interesting general manager question. You're not going to be a seller at the deadline, but do you want to be a buyer or not? You've got a core 10, they got more rookies, more first-time players in the major leagues that just tied the record for the most in history. And you just don't want to sacrifice any of that. You've got coming up in the minor leagues. You've got their number, like the next 10 prospects are still in the minors. We haven't seen the guy I touted because I knew him when he was at Arkansas. Hagen Smith. He's incredible, and he's not pitching very well, but he was absolutely dominant in college. And then, and you have these other players down there for the first time, real hitters, right? So my guess is that they are not going to go all in at all at the deadline, that they're going to play it safe, because they've got the makings of a long-term franchise here, and they don't want to go. If they were going to get rid of anybody, it'd be somebody like Benintendi or others, just because they're older and there's no reason, they may or may not be a part of this team.
Like Benintendi or Newcomb?
Yeah. Well, look, you got some pitchers you can get rid of. Fetty's gone.
You could toss an Acuna in there too.
Yeah, you're right. Acuna. Yeah, exactly. I think that's right. But again, those are minor plays, right?
Right.
Right.
You're not going to be making big plays of the trade deadline this year. They shouldn't, at least.
Right. Now the
Like,
Cubs,
Because they need to focus on keeping Murakami and keeping that clubhouse, relationship with him. He loves the White Sox. I've seen him do press conferences. He loves this team. So
here's a little sidelight about that. Maybe you've talked about this before, but so Venable, when he was at Princeton, the coach, when he was at Princeton, his senior thesis was on Japanese baseball, but Japanese and American fans. And that was his senior thesis. I tried to get a copy of it. I haven't been able to get a copy of it. I wrote to him and asked for a copy. I want to read this. And his father, of course, was relatively famous. I think we have coached in Japan. He has all the connections to Japan. His father played in Japan. I only make this point because when they got Murakami, how do you make that happen? Well, they had Tadeki, the guys that the Sox had, the various Japanese players speak up for them. And then they had, in my view, Venable and his father who had these connections to Japan. So they persuaded him, because we'll find at 17 million, look, he had more than one suitor and he chose it. So I am. And then they bring up the next Japanese player. Now, he played at Oregon before, so he's not an unknown commodity. But I just see that Japanese connection. Can you imagine how incredible that would be if this begins, bringing these great foreign players, Japanese or Korean players from the Far East? Now you're talking about building a long-term franchise, right? It's not just this year. It's a positive view from an area where it's like as if you had the Dominican Republic, right? I mean, the teams that have had the connections to the Dominican Republic, I mean, they've just incredible, like the Cuban connection. So every time you see these connections, it's because if you were coming to this country, you would like to have people who spoke your language. You would like to have people who have the same traditions. So that's just common sense. And so Murakami represents even more than just as a great hitter. We'll see over time. We'll see.
Well, when you brought up Benintendi, I was thinking the only way you could possibly trade him away is you'd have to pay off like somewhere between half and 2/3 of his salary. And then if the Yankees get desperate enough to trade down, then you might be able to steal Jason Dominguez if you throw in like a Newcomb and a couple other prospects you don't really care about, mostly pitching.
Well, Benintendi's numbers are going to get better because this lineup is good, and so he's not. I don't know what his numbers are today, but he's a good hitter. I mean, he can hit. I mean, and so I think there will be interest in him. I think about I don't like to talk about the Cubs, but anyway,
nobody does. They're losers.
Yeah, they are losers. That I love this. They set a record, winning 10, losing 10. Well done.
Winning 10 twice and then losing 10.
It's amazing. But they absolutely lack the pitching. And everybody told them they lack the pitching. It wasn't like this is a mystery. And now that's a tough thing to get at the deadline.
Their bullpen is worse than ours.
That's true. No, they're just
and they think Pete Crow Armstrong is their savior when he can't even catch a freaking ball.
That's right. It's enjoyable to see the Cubs lose. I admit most years recently I have been watching the Cubs and hoping they'd lose. That would buoy me as the Sox lose 100 year after year after year. So the only joy I could take is if the Cubs were losing, and then sometimes they weren't. So that's a double whammy. I can't cheer the two favorite teams in Chicago White Sox and who's ever playing the Cubs. I make no bones about it. So but they are. You look at these teams like the Cubs again, but the Cubs are the model of a modern team because they can spend the money, but you still have to have good management that chooses players correctly. whatever my criticisms are of Milwaukee, they have been in the playoffs 7 of the last 8 years without the kind of money anybody else had. You can't deny the value of the management there. That's extraordinary. It's a bit like the Packers. I mean, you can't deny year after year when you have success.
I just pulled up Benintendi's stats for you. Look into 28-3 homers, 23 RBIs, OPS of 634 currently. Career 750 OPS. But as we know, like singles and walks are worth the same. Doubles and triples are obviously worth more, and home runs are home runs.
Yeah, I see. And that, again, I mean, I said he's a B player. He's not an A player. Never has been. But he's a good player. He's a good teammate. He's he's not going to be with the Sox in 2 years.
No, they're not going to renew his contract.
No. So, it's rent a player at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said I don't think there's any trades that the Sox would be willing to make. This isn't when they're getting rid of Garrett Crochet and all the other spectacular pitchers that they've given away over the last 10 years. That we're just beyond that now. I didn't expect this. I'm sure if you asked me, I thought they'd get within 5 or 10 games of 500 this year. That's kind of where, what'd you say, 77? I kind of thought it was going to be in that mid 70s range. But now expectations have been raised. This kind of pitching stops every losing streak. That's the beauty of it.
I was looking at the Sox this year and looked at them last year, and I went, "Oh, here we go, another losing season." And then all this happened, and now we're actually good.
Oh, 10 games in, I'm writing all my friends who are, disappointed Sox fans how horrible the season's going to be, and I'm comparing it to last year. Their numbers through the first 10 or 15 games were, they were awful.
Oh, they were bad.
Oh, they were just so awful. So again, I didn't think much of management. I suppose I reflected the Sox base fan like me, I've been, is that I didn't think much either of the general manager or the manager, given last few years, and given that Getz was hired without any interviews, and he's 40 years old, and he'd been with Kansas City, a marginal franchise, and I mean, so what was there that was so good about him? Now look, I mean, today he looks like a genius, but Venable, I'm really changing my mind on it, because he gets the clubhouse, doesn't he?
Yes.
That's important.
I didn't know how I felt about him, because I was gonna, if they would have, I just didn't know what to think about him after last year, because we didn't do so well, and I was gonna say, oh, here we go, another White Sox manager that's not gonna do anything for us, and I was proven wrong.
Yeah, it's great. You think of the second half of the season, right? He looked a lot better, but this. The idea now, you remember the Oakland Athletics disproved the whole idea of the clubhouse, that you had to get along. Remember, these guys used to openly fight with each other, and they were a great team. And he said that was always the example on the other side is, we don't have to get along. If you're Reggie Jackson, you just have to hit home runs. And
if we're talking about the A's, talk about the Mets and how their clubhouse is doing right now.
Oh gosh, it's just so. I mean, it's
talk
hard
about fighting.
Oh, yes.
So between Soto and Lindor.
Yeah, well, you can beat up each other if you're winning, if you're 15 games over 500. But, the Mets, they can't catch a break the last few years, all the injuries. That's my impression. I don't watch them real closely, but it's
they spend like hundreds of millions of dollars, and then the clubhouse is toxic, and they all are fighting, and all of a sudden they're just tanking games.
Well, but the White Sox were that way just a few years ago. It was so angering when Anderson was having all of his personal problems. I mean, that's what I assumed from what we've read since then. And you ended up with a toxic clubhouse, and it was the end of the team. And it took them a while to get to where we are today.
Oh, God. Talk about Anderson. Talk about Chris Sale. How he ripped up one of our jerseys. We had to trade him. Yeah, because of that.
Yeah, I mean, great pitcher, but it's hard to be on a losing.
I get his anger, because he didn't want to be like you said, he didn't want to be on a losing team.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to win a World Series, and look what he did. He has won a World Series.
Yeah, well, he was, he was one heck of a pitcher. I mean, I look at the Sox have continually produced some really, really good pitchers. And this right now, you look at this lineup and what they've got coming in the minors, every pitcher is 6'10" or, some outrageous. And they're all just quality pitchers. I mean, quality, real quality. And they'll want to stay, but we've never had any hitting. I can't even remember the last time I thought this team could hit. It's still not like hitting for average, but now at least they're getting guys on and they're getting home runs, and it looks like a team that can hit. And they've got so much hitting in the minor leagues that they're in a good spot. Everyone, even coming into the season, even if losing at the beginning and I was discouraged, you could look at, and I did, I'm sure, say at the time, look, there's a lot of good players here. They did make trades that seemed already to have worked out given how well the players had played.
Ripping off Boston, for example, or and I know that Braden Montgomery just got called up to AAA.
Yes. Yeah, right. He just got up there. And he's going to hit. I mean, he's going to hit. There's no issue about that. And that's the thing is, you've got players down there for which there are no issues. I didn't even know that the latest Japanese ad was in the system. I didn't even know anything about him. He comes
Nobody
up.
did. Nobody did. He was a shock. It was a surprise that we had another one.
But when you look back,
with an
it
arm,
should have been a surprise because he played at Oregon. He's a good player. Right?
Yeah, like he's a pure contact hitter, but he has a glove and an arm.
What did I say? It's basically if Madrigal was an 11th rounder instead of a first rounder.
And pretty much, and that he was Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. And like, remember, and of course they get all we're looking at now is the embryonic team that could go on to be a great team.
I remember Madrigal. Madrigal was such a letdown.
Oh,
Trade to the Cubs, doesn't do anything now. Sits in the Angels farm system.
Oh, is that right? I wondered what happened to him.
He's in the minors in the Angels system.
Yeah, well, but Robin Ventura. I mean,
God,
one of the best college players in history. Not just he was like one of the best in the history of college baseball.
Not a great manager, he was.
Oh, gosh.
Great player, horrible manager.
All you have to do is just say White Sox rebuild, and you two will just get like PTSD from just thinking about it.
All of the times, all of the way we've gone. With this, and I look out to. I don't like this first round choice that they're talking about. I mean, I've looked at his numbers and whatever, and he doesn't look like an overall number one. This kid from UCLA that they're talking about, but for some reason, everybody loves Again, they're talked themselves into this, as we find out with Murakami. All these scouts talk themselves into it.
And also, what I've noticed is that when we went to the game, is that as soon as Murakami comes up, there's a bunch of Japanese vendors now at the concessions.
Wow.
There's a bunch of Japanese food there now.
Oh, well, I can look forward to that. Nothing better than good Japanese food, I'll tell you.
Well, like the day after that game, I ended up writing my glowing review of everything because it was my first game there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad ballpark. It's not. Right.
Especially after the remodel,
Look, they missed by about 3 years having a really great ballpark. So this is the last of the sort of, I call them the mall design, right? And then they went to what you have in Baltimore, what you have in Milwaukee, what you have in Kansas City. These are all, they're built very differently than that park was built. Again, little factoid. I was in Illinois at the time, and I was on the Illinois Development Finance Authority, IDFA, as a member. And the rebuild of Comiskey Park was on our agenda. Ultimately, I had left when they finally approved it. And so the state of Illinois approved it, that rebuild. And of course, it got terrible reviews in the early years because it was just a big mall. But they've shrunk the park. They've done a bunch of things to improve it. It always has had I consider the best food in the major leagues. I've been to a lot of ballparks, and man, the food at whatever they're calling it today, Rate Field, is just excellent. Always has been excellent, always. So that they've emphasized that. But I like the Brewers food. I like the food.
An opinion Brandon had was, why didn't they just make it right field at Comiskey Park, like what the Dodgers did with their stadium?
Yeah, or what they do in Appleton with Neuroscience Group Field at Fox A Stadium, because of how, like, with it being Comiskey too, essentially just a sponsor name slapped over top of the field. They should have just said sponsored field at this park. It would make sense.
I wish they would have. I got a T-shirt up. I've got another T-shirt I'll wear another time. It says, "It's still Comiskey to me." So I was at Comiskey Park for the last game they ever played there. So,
yeah, and you probably saw the new stadium rising.
Yes, we did. It was
everything, and it's like we're trading this for that, and
it was look. They just didn't have the lore. Okay, this again. I'll talk about the Cubs problem, but I lived in Chicago. Obviously, went to Northwestern, and Wrigley Field's like going to a minor league park. I mean, the few times, I think I've been there once or twice, but I used to walk by it every day. So, but one time I was there, I consented because somebody gave me a free ticket, and I had to be there because it was a political thing. Yeah. And I said, this is like a minor league park. I mean, it's not. I mean, now it's got this lore about it, so it's wonderful, right? But it's not. It's crap. It's a crap stadium in a crap area. They could have, but it doesn't matter because, it becomes nostalgic and now it has this enormous value because of that. But it's not because it's any good. I was at old Yankee Stadium when, and that was, when you went there, you just like, oh, it felt like you're at Yankee Stadium, right? I mean, it was.
And you could feel the history probably.
Exactly, too. Like a movie. But Wrigley's just, a cute little ballpark that, people think nostalgically about. And everybody there doesn't even know who's playing on the team. So,
the only thing nostalgic about the freaking field nowadays is the freaking scoreboard they still have up. The giant ass green scoreboard.
Yeah, it's not. Again, I'm not a Cub fan, and I don't like them, and I don't want them to win. So I can't be nobody should take my word on how critical I am of them. I mean, I think that the Sox with their new ownership are going to they got a big question. They're looking at that South Loop site. I think that's great.
They're looking at the abandoned rail yard across from the new fire stadium. That's where they're thinking of putting it.
I think that's all. That's exciting.
I think what they want to do is they want to get out of the South Side and be like proper, like in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
Like I get the South Side now is like it's more violent than it used to be, and I think people are like, I don't want to be like robbed or shot going to the Sox game,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's look, I actually have a relationship with a woman who was killed there 2 years ago.
Oh.
And so it's, and again, when I went there, it was really bad, but I was young and full of piss and vinegar. And, my wife and I would go down to the park and we took the L down and we'd walk across. So, it's different. And even it was really a violent time, but you're correct. The long-term prospect at that site is not good. And so they're not going to stay there. They're not going to be there in 15 years.
No.
But look at the problems they're having with the Bears getting a new stadium there when it was a no-brainer.
Oh my God.
When it's a no-brainer. Can't you imagine that the White Sox, I mean, we'll find out how much money their new ownership has, but the White Sox, if they fight the Bears, I mean, what are you going to do? The White Sox got no clout at all. And they're not building a stadium without public money. That's not happening. So
and I don't even know why they're fighting the Bears. I don't understand. It's all political.
right.
It's all politics.
Oh, the Arlington Heights site is stunningly spectacular.
Well,
It's great.
they tore down the horse stadium for that.
Exactly. It's got 360 acres. It's like you couldn't, there is no more valuable real estate in upper Midwest than that site, right? There's not another 360 acres anywhere in the northern states.
No.
And they own it. And all they're asking for is relief on the property taxes. That's
it. That's it. Just the property tax. And the governor and the mayor are like, no, we don't want that because we're Democrats and we don't know what the hell we're doing.
If they don't look, if I was again, it's all going on now. The legislature's meeting today. Today is their last regular session. You should know I know Illinois politics pretty well. And today's their last session. Now that doesn't mean they can't approve it next week, but it could be something happen. I don't know when this broadcast will go out, but tonight it could do something. The problem, this is a real problem if you're the McCaskies, because there is zero argument, in my view, financially, to not move the team to Indiana. I understand they come up with all this stuff. Oh, that's a horrible neighborhood, steel plants and what have you. Look, they're playing, one football team called the New York is playing in New Jersey. Okay. It doesn't matter.
No.
The Bears franchise is going to be worth more if it's making a lot more, and they need a new stadium to do that. And Indiana's going to finance the darn thing. I think when I hear all this meanness about the McCaskies in Illinois politics, I'm my God. You guys should be hugging them. They no other owner, they'd have left. Every other owner in the country would have left already.
Oh, yeah. They would have packed up and said, all right, Indiana, let's go.
Yeah. They wouldn't even be negotiating. They'd be breaking ground.
No,
we get everything.
They would have already broke ground. That stadium would have been up about 2-3 years from now.
Yeah. It just doesn't make. And again, I think the whole country knows that. The whole league knows that, right? So
and if you're thinking, and going back to Arlington Heights site, is that they want to try to make it like what SoFi Stadium is in California. They have all the restaurants around it. Stuff. It would be a good place to have it because you see how big that land is. They could totally do it. They could put the stadium, put the parking there, and then all of a sudden you have this entire section of that land can go to restaurants and sports betting even. Like, you see how big sports betting is in Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah, and everything about it. That's the answer. Yeah, like anybody from the outside looks at this and goes, "How can you just end up putting up with that crap when you're in Illinois?" I'm not saying you wouldn't have to put up the same crap in Wisconsin. We just don't have the same issues. I mean, the Packers are publicly owned, so they're kind of like, we don't care. We have all the money in the world. We don't need you. And to the credit, the guys that bought the Brewers have seemed to be the same sort of heck of it. We own the team, we'll deal with it, and still run a great ballpark. That's what's going to be. I'm just saying, for all of us who are lifelong Sox fans, to look out the window here and say, if they're going to have this team, are they going to end up leaving Chicago over frustration, financial frustration? I mean, there's plenty of places they can go. Reinsdorf could have moved a long time ago. I mean, again, you can criticize the guy, you can do whatever, but he was offered a lot of money from a lot of places to move this team.
Yes. And he still hasn't moved them.
And he still hasn't. Now, Jim Thompson, the governor at the time, he's the one who made it possible for him to buy a new stadium. And it did come down to that. I mean, he just said, look, we can't continue to operate in Comiskey. We don't have the money to repair it. We don't have that. We
need a new ballpark. And I hear during its last few years, it was literally destroying itself.
Oh, the paint was falling off. It was terrible. It's wonderfully terrible, right?
Wooden seating too. I've heard.
Oh, it was horrible. But a little bit of history, politics history. So the way that got passed, because all that got passed while I was there, they just hadn't financed it yet. But is that this is a great governor. This is what great governors do, great politicians. He meant more about the state than anything else. There's no great benefit to him helping out the Chicago White Sox, but he believed it was good for the city, for the state. He was personally, I watched this, on the floor of the state Senate, buttonholing, and by buttonholing, I mean grabbing their collar, of legislators to get their vote the night it passed. I mean, he was literally the governor on the floor. All the cameras are watching. He doesn't care. It's, you're going to vote for this now. That's that. And you know, so it was amazing to watch that level of desire on a part of a governor and willingness to sort of buck the trend. Now, the same thing kind of happened in Wisconsin. So you guys, comes before your time, but we're still suffering the consequences of the new stadium when it comes to politics, because the Republicans needed one more vote. So Tommy demanded that the state senator from the Milwaukee area vote for the tax that supports it. Everyone knew, I mean, like everyone, that he votes for that, he's out. Money. He voted for it and he was out. And that was that.
And see, that's what I'm thinking, that Pritzker and Johnson are thinking, like, oh, if they vote for this, that they're going to get out. He's not going to win a third term. But here's the thing. Everybody in Illinois, no matter who you are, wants Pritzker out as governor. They want him out.
Yeah, well, he's going away. You're a billionaire, goes to one of his other houses. He can go to his horse ranch where his family was during the COVID. You remember in COVID, his family was down in Florida, no masks, no nothing, riding their horses while he was in this. And they still did.
Yeah.
Well, the joy of a Democrat.
As the rest of the country shut down, you know.
Exactly.
I'm looking at the time here. I know Google Meets is going to do its little things like, hey, we're going to kick you off soon, eventually.
Good.
So how about we go over a couple of things? So it's like any predictions, why should new fans consider being White Sox fans rather than Cubs fans, and any the final thoughts you also may have.
Well, why new generation should be a White Sox fan in Chicago than a Cubs fan? Because the Chicago White Sox are a fun team. It's not like what the Cubs are nowadays, where it's all business and money, and it's like you see them play and they fall over each other, and it's not fun anymore.
The delusional fans.
Yeah, right, and they're delusional fans. But the White Sox are an actual fun team, up and coming. They're very young, and in about 2 to 3 years, I hope they win a World Series. As for the other one, predictions, my thing is that if they could get past Cleveland in the month of June, they shouldn't have a problem the rest of the season.
Yeah, as far as the Cubs, I mean, look, they're the North Shore team. I mean, if you don't know anything about baseball, you can be a Cub fan. I mean, and if you want to be, it's the working man's team. I mean, that's what it is. The White Sox are that. They've always been that. They still are that. Now they're back to that's why I said Murakami fits in perfectly, and all their guys do, because they're real hard workers. They're really hard workers. And that makes when you're a fan, even if someone's losing, if they're given everything, fine. I love baseball enough to appreciate they're working at it, and I think that's the future of the White Sox. I think this year, I mean, just trying to be realistic, I actually do think they'll make the playoffs, but that's it. They will not move far in the playoffs. They don't have the depth. And the other thing is, they may not make the playoffs because they don't have the depth. I mean, you're talking about, this is a long season, so people are going to get hurt. You're going to lose a few people along the way. The moment that happens, this team will really be tested. Their pitching will keep them in it. So I would expect that at this point, that they're going to get to 80 wins and have a good shot at the playoffs. I will not be disappointed if they miss it by a little bit.
I would say
stupid moves.
I would say if they keep going the way they're going, they can be a wild card team. They are a wild card team. I don't think they're a division series team yet.
I think that's right. I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that's correct. And I think, but they have going to have to move on to the new ownership this year in a big way. They're going to have to. They can't pay Murakami. They can't pay the other players they have. You keep forgetting they've got some great pitchers. They've got some great people here.
And
they're going to have to pay
and
them.
Reinsdorf is, like you said, he's running out of money.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, you know, he said like, oh, I want to be the owner until 2032. And I'm like, Reinsdorf, it's not going to happen.
Well, what they're talking about tax wise is they have to, the new owners have got to lend money to him to pay these players. That's their solution. So we'll see again.
But at some point, they're going to stop lending money and they're going to say, all right, we need to take over now because this is ridiculous.
I think that's probably.
I mean, he's coming up.
Reinsdorf's an old guy. He's got his money. He's got his contract.
Right. It's not like he's not, you know, he's not like out of money. Like he's out of money as far as being an owner, but he has a lot of money.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Again, they'll be fine. They're going to get through this. But in the next 2 or 3 years, this payroll is going to quintuple. I mean,
yes.
So it's but I look forward to that day when they have to pay players because the players are worth it. So we'll see. We'll see.
All right, Tyler, would you like to wrap it up this time?
No, you can. I'm not good at wrapping things up.
Thanks, Jim, for coming on the pod.
Appreciate it.
And we'll love to have you back on in the future. You can listen to us on iHeart, Spotify, YouTube, Substack, and Apple. All the socials will be in the description. And until next time.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.